Gucci?
Was Gucci. Huh?
What's Gucci?
We living, bro.
What's good, fam?
How you doing?
It's good to see
Good
you.
to have you here, man.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this moment for some time.
Yeah, man.
Having you in
and also the fact. I mean, we got to be concise with these things, but like even how we met, like we got to get into like the. We swear in this shit?
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I was thinking we swear in this shit.
Come on.
I mean, I fuck
We
with you.
own this. So
My point being is when I met you, you was mad niggerish, bro. And we ain't gonna use the word that much today, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all good.
But you my man, you know what I mean? So we've been talking about doing something. And I see like Florida water in here. I see, oil moisturizers, pink luster, knockoff shea butter. We got Black Panther over here. We got Emery over here popping. Man, y'all got some beauty. It's a beautiful thing up in here.
It's really lovely the way it came together.
Yeah,
it's been a journey, though.
I'm proud
bro.
of you.
It's thanks, man.
I'm fucking proud of you.
Much appreciated, bro.
Yeah.
Coming from you, that means a lot, bro.
Who am I?
Yeah, definitely. But continue on the mad niggerish side of things.
So but the point being, man, I came. This is a new institute. I was there with Booba Dola. Shout out to Booba Dola, the guy.
Out to Booba. Huh?
You know what I'm saying? And I was there with Dola. And you came that day just to meet me because we was only Instagram friends at that point.
Definitely.
And you came and was like, "Yo, what's in town? Oh, I'm gonna come meet him." And then we went. And had dinner over with a bunch of these art. We ain't gonna talk with too much of art fun. These people. It was fun, man. And I was like, "Yo, from that day on, I was like, you my man."
You know those moments when you meet someone and you know that it's you hit it straight away.
Yeah, bang bang.
That was one of those moments. I mentioned it many times. But your energy, you have that Oakland,
bro.
Oakland, the town,
Northern California energy, man.
That energy is just that real. And in the Netherlands, where everyone is gematigd, gezellig, but calm and reserved.
Do normal in it all tied in. You feel me?
Yeah. And it's amazing to have. I told you, we need more people like you, man. We need more of that energy.
Hey, I want some Somalis to roll up and be like, "We coming to your house for 2 weeks," like you just said.
That's real, bro. That's real. I was actually I think 4 years ago. I was at Rotterdam Central, and there was this guy that came. Might be 6 years ago because Chad, Chad, the leaves East Africans chew on.
Oh yeah, but leaves or the root?
The root, it's not the root. Is the branch and the skin on the branch and the leaf is related to the coca
I'm too
leaf.
American, bro. I don't know
so qad is called qad or chad.
Okay,
and that's the favorite pastime of uncles and some aunties. And back then it wasn't illegal yet, and there was a Somali guy. There was a Somali guy at Rotterdam Centraal who walked up on me, and I could tell, as in, obviously you're Somali, but you're not from around here. So I walked up on him, and said, "How you doing, bro?" And automatically he asked, "Yeah, I need to go to that and that place, and how should I get there? Blah blah blah." Google Maps wasn't that lit back then, and
MapQuest days or something.
Right. So eventually, I walked with him, bought him a ticket, and talked to him, and he had a suitcase with him with clothes in, but he told me that he had a Canadian. He was from Canada, and he had a Canadian white girl who was following him in travel, and she would go back with 2 suitcases filled with qad. And that guy, as I bought him the tickets for the metro, he automatically assumed, so give me your number and I'll call you, as in crashing at your place. And then I thought, oh, hold on,
fam.
I'm not sure we roll like that, but it's typically Somali for people to just link up with you and just, okay, I'm with you. Especially as soon as they know who you is and which clan you're part of. So yeah, man.
We good, fam?
Yeah, definitely. But bro,
let's get in. Let's do the work.
West Mapes.
Sauce talk.
And I have your bio here, but we won't.
We could do anything, man. Come on, we can freestyle this. Let's just freestyle this whole thing.
Mixed media artist.
We trying.
I know you into sculptures and paintings, installations, and all that. But you also make beats. You get down.
I try.
Your Instagram game is on point like that.
I have fun.
Huh? You
I
have
had
fun with
fun.
it. And
I would say the biggest thing I want to get to right niggity now is like being able to make exactly what I want, do not compromise on what I think. Like how we can speak freely, how you got this space right here freely.
that's the whole point.
Do your own thing your
exactly.
way, how you want to do it.
Yeah.
Be with my lady, be with my kids, make what I want to make, travel when I want.
That's power.
Keep faith in God or the Creator or whatever I do believe. Stay healthy, eat well. That's all I care about. So all these other terms and mixed media, those will be the vehicles or ways of getting to that, right?
It's the lingo. It's
the lingo, the slanguage, that vernacular, you know? When I say you feel me, Kuti. We just got Nigerian real quick to the son of fella, you know what I'm saying? So there's always ways of, back in high school, we even had this thing where we would start the day, we would have a word, and by the end of that day, it would have 3 or 4 different incarnations amongst maybe 9 black boys at a Catholic high school that's predominantly white. And we have a fully codified conversation prepared from morning until afternoon, and that's kind of what came from being around some brothers, and you want to have codified language and kind of have a sense of camaraderie. But there's always these ways of codified language. I literally just wrote something I'm doing a curriculum at the Refill right now about codified language. It's based on like the J Electronica song, Exhibit C. He said, what was the one he said? You either build or destroy where you come from. That line was like, where you from, like third ward slum or something like that. But the idea of how I related this is kind of what we're going to be discussing today, is these ideas of building or destroying, which is, of course, 5% Nation, of the philosophies of that. I'm not from the East Coast, and I'm also not a person who is invested in the faith system of the fifth 5% Nation. So with that, I'm like, all right, well, let's talk about this and how we're gonna be speaking about Gucci today.
Yeah, definitely.
The bardship of it, right?
Definitely.
So with that, we went to build to destroy, and I create these relationships with Kandinsky, with Julie Moretu, with Mark Bradford, with Faith Ringgold, David Hammonds, and using materiality to find urgency in what our people, Pan-African people, have been able to make amazing artworks out of urgency and out of the materials that are allowed to them at that exact moment, which creates, again, vernacular. So we have this loop of street vernacular, slang, and also material vernacularity. But to believe in that, you got to have sauce, faith in yourself, not get lost, So like, all of this shit is full circle, bro. So,
the gift of gab, you just went off.
I told you we could freestyle this. Let's go.
You just went off. I think we're done now. It's a wrap. It's finished. But no, on a real note, could you touch on, you were talking about codified language and the necessity of codified language to create camaraderie and paint that picture of you being in a Catholic school and with your brothers. What's the necessity of codified language?
I mean, really, it's just fun. And you also see it, like, you see this idea of what happens where certain things go from you, and it's unfortunate because this is the product of what it comes from. And I'm gonna reference the brother right now, the Noah Angel cat, who came up. This is a brother named Noah. Shout out to Noah Angel, who was a good friend of my friend Corey Osborne. They went to university together. Corey sent me this thing. Malik found it on his own because Malik's a researching wizard.
We do what we do.
You do what you do. Man. You was on YouTube surfing.
YouTube scholar. Yeah, but this one was on what was it? What's
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud.
Yeah, exactly. The same one. In depth as fuck, right?
Yeah. It was amazing.
So this idea of like this codified language, and Noah was talking about it, and just about like how there's these instances of like, the rural South and the commodification of goods, animals, and how we'll talk about that later, the slang and all that. But then how all of these experiences of slang or language are shown when it comes to African, Pan-African, African-American, Caribbean, Somali, experiences. So all of these have their own. So if it's with reggae, with the Windrush phenomena of going to the UK, if it's with jazz, when it comes to the great migrations, the first and the second. So the first was actually with jazz, right? The second one is with soul music and Motown and all this Detroit sound and Berry Gordy and all this stuff in Detroit. And then what happens with Detroit is like, yo, y'all up north, not down south, y'all up north, and y'all catching this new white hate. So then you have these new experiences, and then you have to create this codified experience of language.
Why?
Camaraderie, community. You know, you got to stay
camaraderie, community,
and
identity,
also, what are these economic models when you're a person of color and you're trying to get established? What are some of these things you can really do? You just got to go to factories, fabriques. You got to do that. So that's what a lot of people did. But again, when a lot of these things dry up, you have informal markets. And what happens with these informal markets? You ain't trying to get caught by the police, by the police, by the one times, by the Jakes, by the 5-0s, 50s, you know, Hawaii, hanging them toes off the board. Them boys.
You must be from the Bay Area, right?
From the town. I'm from Oakland, man. E40 land, man. I can talk like this.
It's so serendipitous talking about slang and vernacular with a homie from Yaytown. Huh?
From the one, man, because it's even funny about it with
But sorry, no. Continue on the path you were on.
I forgot even where I was.
The necessity of codified language, and you were talking about as jobs dry up,
safe space.
Exactly in the ruins of industrialized cities, and having to make it do what it do on the one hand, but on the other hand, different contexts, whether it be school, whether it's be environment. So what's the necessity of
how much time you got? I mean, we got redlining with real estate. We have fragility when it comes to the job market. And if it is, what can you get? And the factories dry up. Now, what happens to this? And like, what happens to these neighborhoods? What happened to Detroit, which is a city of 3 million people, and now it's like 800,000? Wow. You know? And the murder rate that was popping out there, early 2000s, 90s. You know, or what happens in Oakland, Oakland is now a booming city because of what's happening with tech.
Right. Spillover.
It sickens me as a person who's from Oakland, but it's also kind of good for, like, say, my father who grew up in Oakland and, like, as a white dude. I'm mixed, so it's like, you know, so my father's a white dude in.
Does he own property?
Oh my God, yeah. Oh yeah, he's
then
good.
You're good.
He's good. He's good.
I think property values. That don't mean I'm good.
That don't mean I'm good.
No, that doesn't necessarily mean. But I think real estate prices doubled or quadrupled by now in Oakland.
I don't want to comment on that.
In terms of
things gone up. Things gone up. You know, Oakland's one of the markets actually like the Netherlands, where my father works in real estate. That's his main thing. So with every 10 years,
he works in real estate.
He builds. My pops is a property developer. So if I went back there, I would be building houses and making art and stuff. But yeah, point being is, you're in that healthy type of market like the Netherlands, your real estate pretty much doubles at most every 10 years. Maybe it doubles in every 5 years. Some of these markets out here, like you buy in Rotterdam, you're gonna double your in a certain time. You'll double the value in 5 years. You know, so. But yeah,
especially the last 5 years here in this city.
Yeah, so I mean, with Oakland, with the Google and all this, it's they've changed the landscape of what the city is. It's become a gentrified hipster. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska, playlands. You know, whereas before with Oakland, I'm not saying that's a good or bad. I'm not here to have that conversation. Exactly. I mean, I have my opinions, but I'm not here to have that conversation.
Just stating the facts.
Just stating the facts.
Reflecting.
Exactly. When it was with like West Oakland, again, North Oakland, aka the North Pole, like how Gucci said for his own 6, North Pole.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
And we'll get into that. Yeah. As well as East Oakland. But East Oakland is like, then like West Oakland, then North Oakland. But East Oakland just runs. You know, like there's a lot of East Oakland. There's not as much West Oakland. It's not as North.
Oakland is
too short.
The farthest from the river, right? As in, is it? I'm trying to picture the map now. As in, where's San Fran?
West is closest to San Fran. East is further away.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
so that also means that must have east must be the ends. The whole of Oakland were the ends, basically.
But
right?
West was, I mean, West was the most gutter at a certain
Really?
point. Yeah, like you had
One would think that
Lower
because of-
Bottoms over there. You had Ghost Town. Like there's certain neighborhoods over there. I just never went. I was like, I'm not. I remember we went to this thing. We used to have this thing called Black Fridays and Black Saturdays. So you'd have to call up this hotline. I think it was even like a pager or something, or not. I think they would page you, and then you would call, and then you would get this number. All right, tonight the Black Friday is at Pittsburgh so and so, and Pittsburgh is like where like a lot of the black families who had to leave Oakland because they couldn't afford the real estate prices would move to, and then it would become like Oakland out somewhere else, you know. So then it would be like, yo, we having the Black Friday, the Black Saturday out here. Whenever it was in Pittsburgh, Oakland, Richmond, somewhere close to East Palo Alto, those motherfuckers was gonna get shot up, without a doubt. So that's kind of the experiences that I grew up with. I'm not saying that those were wholesome situations, but that's why I say that a lot of things has changed.
And things have changed a lot in Oakland in a similar fashion. The homie Wouter Pocconi, Wally Pox from De Belmer, he architect and
you talking about this cat? Yeah, you talking about this cat. Yeah. He was in New York. He was saying this guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
New York or Boston, I'm not sure. One or the other. His girl is from the Bronx, if I'm correct. He always references the whole twin city idea, Amsterdam and Rotterdam, and we've been having conversations about how we could read Amsterdam and Rotterdam as twin cities. And if you look at that comparison, Rotterdam would be more like Oakland in the sense
I have a full ass philosophy on this shit.
Definitely. But if, hold on to that. It's and if we look at the parallels as this city is being redeveloped and gentrified, and actually this neighborhood is up for gentrification these next couple of years. That's why we set up this space. One of the reasons why we set up this space right here. I live around the corner, but that's that wasn't the driving factor. But if we're talking about vernacular, street vernacular, Dutch slang, we could argue derives or emerges from Rotterdam, and especially from these neighborhoods. And I've been thinking for quite some time as in what will the impact be of this of gentrification and the demographical shift in terms of how the vernacular will develop, and which direction it is going to move. So Oakland being a city that's one of the most, but it's still at the same time it's one of the most expensive markets in the U.S. I've heard, right?
Yeah, I think it's
in the top 3, I think.
It was. I don't know if it still is, but the reason though, I mean, yeah, it's just guys
because Silicon Valley and all of that, right? It's
what I was gonna say is these what's that movie called, man? It's with these poets, man. I forget what it's called. You can put it in the link, but I forget what the name of the thing was called. It's about 2 poets. It's about Oakland. It's about a police shooting. Y'all will know this shit.
Not sure.
But it's it kind of shows that like a lot of holdups have been happening. A lot of like gunplay, a lot of this, a lot of that.
It's a recent film.
Yeah, it was a recent film.
Okay.
It's almost like they predicted it. Or maybe it was happening. I just didn't see it. But with this Rona happening, my homie called me. He's like, yo, what do you do? Like, how do you raise your kids in predominantly white space? Because he's thinking about going out to like one of these suburbs, Lafayette, Walnut Creek, one of these safer places with good public schools. And kind of giving up this Oakland idea because, them get 'em boys is out there trying to get them. So it's like, what do you do at that moment when things are? This is what comes with gentrification. It's a huge blowback. Same thing's happening in Brooklyn. People are getting like, run your pockets left and right. So same thing with Brooklyn, with Oakland.
As in, gentrifiers being robbed. That's what you're talking about.
Well,
right?
the gentrifiers being robbed, but also maybe people who are even from there who are well-to-do, who went to kind of better programs in public schools or private school like I went to, who are from Oakland, but are like, yo, you're not from here. You're a gentrifier. We don't get you. So even for that, maybe it doesn't fully
does
work
that happen?
out.
Because usually you see that Gentrifiers just walk around as though they own the place, right? They have this
Yeah.
this
This dumb way of walking around.
dumb
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
What was that word?
What was that word?
That fuckery.
Oh, walking around like a dumb motherfucker. Yeah, that thing.
But at the same time, they walk around with this in Dutch we say vanzelfsprekendheid, with this ease, as though they're allowed and they own the place, right? So
But isn't that like 75% of white people out here?
75%,
Or,
5%.
75% of white people out here.
Okay, but I thought I was making the link with the 5% of white folks. That makes me up for a second, right?
That was you. Like, hold on. Yeah.
But hold on. What I wanted to get into is,
Yeah.
you mentioned Pan-Africanism, and you being an African American, me being a Somali, us being here in Rotterdam, the Rhine Delta, one would call. In what ways does the idea of Pan-Africanism influence what you do or your thinking?
Well, I can answer that very easily.
And maybe we
very
can
easily right now.
Yeah.
You and I are talking right now. We're talking about anything. You respect whatever I gotta say. I respect whatever you gotta say. I just learned about some chad or some cod. That's these exchanges are what your social norms, what your mother has taught you, what your community has taught you, how you're going to raise your children. All of these things are just simple things, and it also goes back to simple foundational things with maybe the things that you were raised with from a Somali family that you brought here. I'm not really keen with the social norms of the Netherlands. I've met a lot of good people out here, but I'm not keen to the ways, and I don't think it'll ever work for me when it comes to that. You know what I mean? But when it comes to trying to have these conversations and dialogues, it's quite easy. It's in the Pan-African way.
Because this understanding.
Or with Booba. It's
right?
like, it's the same. Like, we're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about culture. We're going to talk about how to make the best work. Yo, you heard that album?
Yeah, definitely.
You remember that when that happened? Yo,
but hold on. I think this is really powerful what you just mentioned, and bringing it to the mundane, the everyday, just sitting across from each other and chopping it up and having this shared understanding and being able to speak the same codified language we were talking about just earlier. And that's what these types of spaces represent for me as well, as in night shops, bodegas, tocos, barbershops.
Couldn't agree more.
Barbershops. It's like informal institutions or Pan-African institutions, one could call them, right? As in places where we congregate and share knowledge, right?
Look at the barbershop, other places. It's the same. Yeah. Wait, what's the barbershop like in Somalia?
Exactly the same.
South Africa.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I've seen them in South Africa.
Yeah.
The funniest
even
shit,
in India, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
their hair a little silkier, but yeah.
Still. What's it called? I was reading an article on BBC, and that I was looking up how barbershops function in different parts of the world, right? And I came across this article that. And this freaking India, bro. And they were talking about that the barbers are social workers, psychologists, and all of that. So it's and even the visual vernacular, the material vernacular of those spaces are the same as when you walk through here, and looking at a street as Schiedamse Weg. Yeah. We call it the Schiedamse Weg aesthetic. Yeah. As we were working on this project, we were talking about that Schiedamse Weg aesthetic. We shouldn't divert too much from it. We should be in dialogue with it and build up on top of
because
it. Whether it's Oakland, whether it's
it has
different
language.
It has a language, right?
And you don't want to digress from that language, because if so, you take away from the essence of what this area is. You come as a gentrifying, warring, colonial body, as many of these people do, then it's a warring action. So if I came out here, I'm like, yo, I mean, as long as my kids and my girl can walk around.
And an interesting thing is that the gentrifiers bring their own vernacular. They bring their own aesthetic.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Yeah, but
That's
even
slick
if
shit to say.
it's quite interesting if you look at how that generic Scandinavian aesthetic from coffee shops, not the coffee shops, but cafes and the yoga
Shisha
studios
spots
and all of that. As in, so it's almost a clash of vernacular, right?
It's a clash of vernacular, but let's look like when we go, like, let's rewind half a step, right?
Yeah.
So you said Pan-Africanism. When you said this Pan-Africanism thing is, I'm from Oakland, you're from Somalia. We just spoke about the barbershops. What else happened in Oakland besides all the good vernacular hip hop? We got
Panthers, right?
We got Black Panthers. So what were the Panthers' models? Models of going at things. They wanted to shake up everything and say, hey, you white boys over there, you Asians, you Latinos, we cool with everybody. Just don't come over here with this boring, bland ass, white bread ass aesthetic and try to knock us over the head with it, and we'll be cool. Be understanding of our ways. We have a conversation about it.
And we have common enemies till a certain extent.
Yeah.
Right? So,
don't be colonial in your practices and your ways.
exactly.
And we could be cool. And that's kind of what I think it is. I want to be cool with every single type of person.
But it's quite interesting if you look at how if we're talking about this visual vernacular, as in wherever you go, whether it's South London or the south of Rotterdam or Harlem or etc.
These are class dynamics roped into race, wrapped into race. You got one of them little.
How does that translate into a visual vernacular? Could you touch on that for a second?
How does
how race and class tie to one? It creates this type of aesthetic, this DIY aesthetic, as in
I mean, I can only speak about it from my way, my personal way. Yeah? So in my personal way, I would say that I use all this bright orange. Yeah, bright orange is in everything. So with this bright orange, it is kind of like you ever read Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man?
No, I've.
Yeah,
that's one of those books that's supposed that's on the shelf. But
so I was of course when I was in my YouTube hole last night, I was watching this conversation with Kerry James Marshall. He is from, I believe, Alabama. Yeah, I think he's actually also from Birmingham. If this comes out and I'm wrong, then just put it in, whatever. Okay. But Kerry James Marshall, you know who he is, yeah? No. He's the one when a few years ago, I think in 2018. Diddy bought a painting for 21 mil. That was a Kerry James Marshall work. Yeah, and he's also someone who just keeps his head down, stays about his family, stays about his ways. That's what he does. He's not shiny. He's not this. He's not that. But then he has these black on black paintings. So he has like kind of like a blue black in the back and a really robust, very active black with like white. Like a lot of the coloring is done with like grays and whites, and it's really colorfully done. Very
maybe
nice.
We can pull it up.
Yeah, exactly. But it's very colorfully done. Yeah. So with that, he's created a narrative between Ralph Ellison and the Invisible Man, and also kind of this visibility. So what I did was I was like, let me think about it. I just came across it last night, and I was like, yo, and I've been telling people I play with this visibility, but I'm the opposite. Where it's like, you walking around as a person of color, you almost got in the U.S. It's a lottery. You almost got like a bullseye in your back. So I said this bright orange, as if you were in like a construction site. You got these construction vests. You got the hard hat that's orange. So a lot of this is produced now as kind of like, be careful because you may be in danger. The cops is over there. But also it's like a visual double entendre. And whenever you hear the word double entendre, it's always talking about rap, right? Oh my God, he did a double entendre. It's a triple entendre.
A quadruple entendre.
My God, it's a quadruple. I ain't never heard one of those,
But a visual double entendre. That's what
because of the visual double entendre.
Is in the double entendre being on the one hand,
double meaning. I just like using double entendre. I love double meaning.
Double meaning, but the double entendre meaning that on the one hand, the orange vest that they had signifies as in danger, but also construction work
that's
going on.
Class. But I'm getting to the class. The class will be last. But then also it's this kind of a sense of like hood electricity, trillness, realness. Zone 6, the Trap, East Oakland, Baltimore, Detroit, 8-9 Mile Road, whatever these things are. I never even been over the 8-9 Mile Road. I just heard about it in songs. I just, exactly. Uptown, Harlem, Bronx, BX, Brooklyn. These are all places that I spent time or worked in. Compton. What the hell was that place? Paramount. I used to teach at Paramount Unified School District, which is right next to Compton.
Yeah.
Lakewood, Long Beach. I lived in Long Beach for 6 years.
Moving back to the double entendre.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But these things, they all have, their ways of showing that this electricity is in all these different areas. So if you're in BX, if you're in Brooklyn, it's the same thing. It's just maybe it gets codified as something different, or it gets represented in how they put in that Noah Angel thing from '93. There's some whores in this house, and then Gucci said there's some holes in this house, right? So those things, it becomes this codified language and experience, but maybe it's different. Would be more club music that gets down to Atlanta, and that's one situational codified experience through a vernacular relationship that, because of that orange. That hood electricity allows them to be on the same frequency.
But hold on. Are we talking about the color orange?
Yes.
Okay. And
how this bright ass orange I always wear to everyone, and all the white folks out here are like, oh, you must really love the Netherlands. No, it's not about you. It's not about you, once, fam.
Right.
Yeah.
But hold on. So how do you connect the color orange to electricity? Is it because of the working class aesthetic of
when
it?
You go into a job site, don't hit that bollock. It's gonna be black, orange, black, orange. Exactly. Don't hit the watch out for
yellow,
this.
yellow, black.
Exactly. Right? So it's these things, or the white, red strip tape. So I play with all this in my work, but the main one I hold on to is the orange. So I make all these paintings on orange tart. I put all my background paint in a lot of orange. Maybe this will just be, my orange era or something. But for me right now, I'm rocking with it because it's working. It's getting me in this space.
Move back to the hood electricity. I was enjoying how you went.
Yeah. So the hood electricity, with that, it's like, you may have a target. I know which one was this? Hood electricity. Where were we at with that one?
So you were talking about whether it's different areas, be it BX.
Same thing though.
It's
the same thing.
It's the hood electricity.
Yeah, but then it's also like how the Bay has been a hotbed for electricity, and it still is, even with gentrification and everything. And it's been a place that people always pull the lingo from. Often don't give credit to it. But then there's also been times when New York was the hotbed of lingo. The Bay is still a hotbed, but Atlanta got a lot of lingo, man. Atlanta has got a lot of lingo. But then you also got people from like Port Arthur, Texas, like UGK.
I think all types of,
you know,
every area has its own lingos. If you look at Rotterdam, we have a very large Cape Verdean community, right? So that some Creole vernacular seeps in to slang in Rotterdam as well.
PanAfricanism.
And PanAfricanism again. And what I wanted to talk to you about is you've watched.
Hold that one.
Definitely. Yeah.
I forgot about the class. I was going to bring the class into it, right? Definitely. When you have this idea of the class, this orange, this working language, there was at the time
orange being the construction,
the tarps. Now you work within a construction narrative, but I do a lot of referencing to, just being a person of color. So it's like, if it's actual figurative elements or if it's abstract elements, I play with that relationship. Another conversation. But with this class, and you see I use a lot of scaffolding or stikers, as they call them here.
Yeah.
When you're on the stiker, you're on the inside of that stiker, and you're doing some scooting work, or you sanding something. That's the only Dutch I speak is construction Dutch. Because I was out here, I had to hustle to provide for kids for the first 4 years, whatever. So I was living and I was dealing with a lot of people who were Bulgarian, Moroccan, Turkish, like kind of around the immigrant community. And you start seeing it as this situation of haves and have-nots. You start seeing that when you're on that scaffold, on the inside of that building where the person's standing that window, there's a guy who's very proper. He has his blazer on in the house. He has his fancy collar. He's on his laptop. And he's doing white collar work, which is seen as higher than blue collar work, where the people who are actually on the stiker or the scaffold are actually doing work that is valued as lower than this person who's on a computer, which also goes into these class dynamics and relationships. Even if it's just, a bunch, poor white Dutch people who smoking a ton of cigarettes on the construction site, whatever it is.
Eating frikandel, huh?
Yo,
frikandel special.
Special. I've never even really seen this frikandel ever. I don't, dead ass. I've been here for 7 years. I've been here for 7 years. I technically haven't even really ever seen a frikandel, bro. Whenever I hear that shit, I'm like, I'm going the other way, fam.
Okay, hold on to that thought. I'm gonna look up the frikandel.
Yeah, look it up. I'm gonna keep talking. Yeah. So then, with that, you had these dynamics of race, man. Or class, excuse me. These dynamics of class, where it's like, this is higher than this, and my work is talking about that, but it also plays with the race, and it also plays with these poor white folks. We call them, it's been called crackers in other places. I don't say it. And how that relationship is like, oh, we better than you. And all of a sudden the rich motherfuckers, the 1%ers up here is laughing at everybody, kicking them little, crumbs. Yeah. And it's like, nah, man.
But so
stay humanistic, stay about the class dynamic. Yeah.
Class and how class and race are
interwoven and intertwined.
Exactly. But so if I understand you correctly, you use this construction work vernacular in your work to invoke these class dynamics that you're talking about on the scaffold, right?
Yeah, because we're the people who build everything.
Exactly.
If it's the poor white folks, if it's black folks who built the White House,
Bro, could you give me die plastic hoes met een shirt erin? Maakt niet uit, jij mag er eentje kiezen. This is one of the...
Okay, I didn't even see this. So we speaking the same thing.
One of the things that we...
Let me hold this. You talk.
Let me show it for the audience at home.
Yeah, blue collar. See?
There used to be a laundromat in this space before we were here for 35 years, and we wanted to reference that practice and have a conversation about those blue collar jobs and how a lot of people try to move through life and make ends meet, right? And there's this line written on it: blue collar jobs don't pay, right? And ask Tony, Ace, and Majid. Those are all characters from Tony Montana's in right? Tony Montana from Scarface, Ace from Paid in Full, and Majid from the film Wolf. And one of the things that I noticed is
Wolf.
It's a Dutch film. It's on YouTube, by the way.
Okay, it's on YouTube.
In total,
I'll
send you the link.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've noticed is that in those types of movies, the main character always goes through a phase where they try to do it right and find a real respectable job, a blue collar job, and eventually
quit and go back to trapping.
Exactly, or move into trapping. In the case of Ace, right? And so the whole idea of crime doesn't pay, and in the back we wrote as in rinse that moolah. Because Ace is seen walking through the film with a clothes from the laundromat, right? And so with this piece, we're trying to have a conversation. It's a conversation piece about how class and race are interwoven and the role of the bad guy. And one of the things that we touch upon in the video essay is the role of the gangster and the role of the bad guy and how they have a specific function within our collective imaginary.
Robin Hood-ish.
Exactly. Could you touch on
Robin Hood does. I would say not only I think it's a lot. I mean, it's not just with the drug dealer. I think it's also guys who get girls. It's like, oh, I wish I was that confident. It's always I wouldn't say it's just as, it is very predominant within the culture, but I think it's more about the fact that because of societal norms or pressures, or even what happens with do normal here, it's social policing.
The do normal, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's like do normal, like you know, like just be normal. That's crazy enough, fam.
Exactly.
Where it's like that's social conditioning, that's social policing.
Yeah.
So because of social policing or social norms, if you don't do these things, or if you do it in a certain way, you will be viewed as a sociopath. You will be viewed
You'll be
as a certain
ostracized,
type ostracized socially.
But
And
what,
that looks-
but what if the system that you live in is already functions in such a way that by default you get ostracized?
Yes, I understand that.
And
But
there are characters.
It's a playing within society thing where you're also like, yo, am I doing this? Is this wrong that I do this? Or should I try to do it the right way that society has told me it is the right way? Or should I go about doing it like this, do it for this long, and then do it so I can get legal again?
Exactly. But what I wanted to touch on is because 9 out of the 10 times people that go trapping, they most don't get out, right?
No.
And but
Dead,
still
dead or in jail. And that's
dead or in jail, right? But but still it holds this sense of going against the system, going against those social norms, going against the law, breaking the law, and making it look effortless. As in, that's what. It's not that explicit in this piece, but the poor man's dream, the blue collar man's dream is sticking it to the man and not needing to punch that clock. And since the color orange is part of your vernacular
sure.
you use a lot, how in what ways do you deal with transgressing the law, breaking the law, and how that ties into that blue collar aesthetic? Because there's always people with blue collar jobs always have a lot of people from the lower ranks of society have hustles on the side, some things going on, huh?
I try to, because there's so many. There's an artist named Derek Adams who's really a dope artist, but he always tries to show black joy. Black joy, you know, happiness, or the ways to produce that happiness. I like this in the background. This is nice. You see, this is definitely, you know.
Is that real?
Definitely. So yeah.
Shai needs to
relocate
that scooter, because that's his scooter, right?
That was his.
He bought a scooter, and
they're trying to get him, huh?
Every time
Shai, get your scooter,
I think when someone just walks past that scooter, the alarm goes off.
Near it. Yeah,
so that's. But you were talking about Black Joy.
Black Joy, right? Yeah. So with Black Joy,
it's okay. There's no problem, bro.
Yeah, no, just walk through, Shai. What's up? Hey, give me a boss, man. You know, it's all right, man.
Could you bring us some more water when you get back, bro?
So with the Black Joy, I choose to not speak about certain things at all times because I'm starting to see
transgression being one of them.
Yeah, but I would also say more of the things that come across that I always want to talk about are more of the things that I want to see or the things that I really enjoy. Like in Glassworks, I put Gucci before he went to jail, but in the same piece, I got Malcolm before he went to jail, and I know that Gucci.
But that touches on that transgression in some sense, bro, because it's an inextricable part of life, right?
It does, but it's also kind of like they had already. We've seen already that they've done better. Exactly. Yeah, we've seen it. Exactly. You know, it's like I'm not trying to talk about as much of the hoodisms or the whatever isms because I feel like those things have now. So as an American coming here to the Netherlands, I see that a lot of people of color now play into this urban ideal or this urban fantasy that has been
the notion of the urban,
the notion of the urban. And this notion of the urban has been like, it's a Hollywood effect. It's a hyper reality. It's not even from when you're in LA or you're in New York or you're in Philly or Atlanta. This is like a party vibe. This is like something that's like from a music video. And then people perpetuate this as if this is real life. So a lot of these things, I want to stay.
The power of imagery.
Exactly. So I want to stay away from that shit because for me, it's like, nah, it's not what I'm feeling. It's not my way of I'm just a normal ass dude, you know.
But at the same time, it's that point that
So,
you just made.
so maybe that even gives the transgression even more validity. Kind of, I mean,
what do you mean by that?
meaning that like I try to stay away from a lot of these Hollywood circles and things of like pretentious or falsely created realities
Exactly.
of blackness.
Or maybe even a reflection of reality, but it becoming hyper real and becoming a whole thing in itself, right?
I mean,
But
you can make a Black Adam Curtis documentary on this.
yeah, but if that shows you the power of the educational power of rap music, and one of the things that we want to pay attention to in this series is the capacity of knowledge production within rap music, as in and that can be used for good, or can be used as in within that Hollywood paradigm.
But it's both, just like Hollywood films are, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What was the brother's name you put in that thing? Cobb was his name, yeah?
Exactly. William Cobb.
William Cobb, he a cold one. That's what he was saying, right?
He dope.
So what William Cobb was saying, he was saying more or less about the idea of narration and the Great Migration and how that went with jazz. But then a lot of people are saying this, you know, but it's also like, this is just the recent one I saw, and just talking point for this one. But then how the bardship, being the bard, like being a social bard, a Wordsworth, as if like Shakespeare was a bard.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like you over here spitting hot shit in iambic pentameter. You know what I'm saying? So,
and that's called being a bard.
Being a bard,
Being a bard.
B-A-R-D, bard.
Yeah. I think I've
you know, Gucci's a bard.
He's a bard, definitely.
E40 is the bardest of bards. You know?
The bard amongst bards, huh?
Yeah, or you have a town crier.
Okay.
You know, it could be a drum, or it could be a person who tells the town's news, depending on what that
a griot type of.
Griot. That was just next to what I was going to say.
Yeah, continue.
So yeah, it depends on whatever that narrative is. I just want to see more realistic narratives. I just want to see more realistic narratives.
Definitely, and which is super important. What
I was talking about. I was talking about Grill about this the other day, and we were talking about black films.
Yeah,
with black films, we're like, yo, why we always got to see one that's about trapping? We always got to see one about, you know, some bad shit that happened. Some, you know, a lot of bad shit has happened. I spent a lot of time researching it. I want to see good things happening, and I also want to add different narratives,
different perspectives.
I think you have a pretty, you know, there's certain elements of your life from what I've seen when we speak. You have a pretty decent life. I have a pretty decent life. Hey, gentlemen, y'all like your life? Yeah. So we got two brothers over here. They like their life. So it's like, let's talk more of some of these narratives. These are some great looking cats over here who seem like they have something kind of halfway together. I don't know y'all that well, but y'all seem like good guys. So let's talk more about these things instead of the trap narrative, Belly narrative. I love Belly. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Get back at me.
I get what you're saying. Most definitely. Because if the diet of stories that we are served is too monotonous, it becomes problematic, definitely. But within that reality of pop culture and the glorification of all that, let's not pull it into the area of glorification, but the hyper visibility of those notions of the urban and the ghetto. That within that spectrum, you also have people that try to flip it, and the spook that's sat by the door idea, as in, so this is what y'all expect. Let me serve this in such a way where I can flip it. And what I find
that was
interesting,
Gucci went to jail.
That's exactly. But what I found interesting about a figure like Gucci, or in some sense, the most common example we could use is Rick Ross. But I think the late great Nipsey might be a more relatable.
I don't know the example you're getting to, but Nipsey may be the one.
I think, but still, it's that living that street life and being subjugated or exposed to those realities past Hollywoodification of all that, and using it in this attention economy to gain notoriety, to gain the viewership, and it's almost in this erotic, in this hypnotic way that this play on violence, and I really appreciate that you wanted to take it away from that and talk about different narratives and different stories. Most definitely,
is the essence of why we have to get away.
Exactly.
And I want to stay here. We're going to stay here.
If we stay here for a second and try to grapple with those all those trying to make your way in this post-industrial capitalist racist society, sexist society, and being able to make it do what it do. That's what the sauce means for me. That's a form of embodied knowledge, of life experience, of understanding. Call it street mart.
Get it how you live.
Exactly.
Market.
Exactly.
Or economy.
And within that perspective, because it's the critique of that glorification is something that's super important. But what I'm trying to do is, but hold on, let's pump the brakes on it and let's investigate what's going on, because a lot of kids here is and people here, the level of critiquing the culture isn't at that point yet where we could move past it. So if we
it grabs the attention.
It grabs the attention. It's good for grabbing attention, but it also, and if it's good for grabbing attention, maybe it's a gateway to explore all those realities that that Gucci talks about. And when I asked you to be part of this series, and I told you about Gucci, you went off, right?
Yeah.
And one of the first things you said is, Gucci's a hood philosopher, man. What is it? What does that mean for you?
He's metaphorical in every way. You know, he's metaphorical. I mean, I'm not the hugest, I would say, person, because research-wise, I don't have a ton of things to say about Gucci, but he's metaphorically, metaphorically, he can say the sauce that we had in that. If you have the sauce, you can get dropped off. I got the sauce. You definitely got the sauce.
Definitely.
I can get dropped off. Shit, a lot of places. I got dropped off here. I think here is actually harder to get on your feet than South Africa or Ghana. Shit, y'all love paperwork out here. Y'all love paperwork and registrations and this and that. I'm a very informal person.
Lots of people get lost in.
I get lost in this shit here. You know, so that's when I say.
That's why a lot of Somali people move to the UK. And to be able to get away from the bureaucracy of the Netherlands. But if so, a hood philosopher, continue on that.
Yeah, so I think with him being this cat, we have the sauce. We talk about getting dropped off anywhere, but then also the vernacular of that. To me, he could talk about any type of. He could talk about Southern trade goods. Be it tobacco, be it cotton. Shit, he was talking about Santa. He's Santa at Zone 6. He's Santa in the North Pole. Is his neighborhood. The fact that he
being cold out here in the streets.
The fact that when you think of like speaking on the telephone, the feds are listening, and then you have a few words. Da 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 da. This dude gives you a whole song about shit that you don't even know what the fuck it is. And you find out later, like, I'm going to keep it 100. When I first heard Gucci in like 06, I was like, what the fuck is this?
Me, exactly.
I was like, what is this?
I was into it, but
I was like, fuck this, bro.
This is.
I was a purist. I was a purist. I was like, nah, man, if it ain't no Talib Kweli, I don't even listen to Talib Kweli anymore. I listen to Gucci. And I had
Why?
Exactly. So I had a conversation with someone about this in like one of my Black Studies classes. And this idea of conscious rap, whatever. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm into conscious because they saying certain things. Then I started meeting certain cats from unnamed hip hop groups, but worked with them. And you see that these cats is just like everybody else. They just trying to hook up with girls. They just trying to. Yeah, they just trying to. They said they vegan, yet they eating chicken. You drop your papers,
all different types of chickens.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Huh? you know. But yeah, so and you see that they is kind of keeping it in a certain way, but they're not keeping it real. That's one thing they're not doing. Whereas I think that Gooch has actually kept it as fully fucking real. Actually, he's probably even said it worse than it even is. Because he glorifies certain things that may not even be his experience, but from him being an orator of the neighborhood or the experiences that he's seen along his way from Birmingham to Atlanta, what that has been for him. So I think his reality or consciousness, when we talk about conscious rap, we're gonna have to reframe that and say, no, it's not about like positive hip hop. It's about what is your consciousness saying to you? What is the reality to your humanity? And that's why he's the fucking philosopher.
Definitely. If it's quite interesting positioning Gucci as a conscious rapper in this instance.
He's one of the most conscious, actually.
One of the most conscious.
He made me rethink my thought.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
Like,
Can you imagine? And if we just go back to the whole idea of the North Pole, the East Atlanta Santa, as in Zone 6, which we're talking about, and it being a barren land, being called out here in these streets and all of that. As in Noah talks about this in length in the podcast, in his podcast as well. In his lecture, is it more actually of in these ruins of a post-industrial city where and Gucci painting that vivid picture of what it is to move through that world, move through his world, and create that whole painting that picture vividly.
And he is like an abstract, or he could be a real crazy abstract painter, or he could be like this, like your little pen. He could be on this shit, like make sure the pen's in. Really finely paint that shit and spending, you know, literally maybe 3 months in just one painting. How meticulous he is with his metaphors. And these are, you know, these are not realistic metaphors. You know, this is a conceptual metaphors.
Exactly. Gucci is a highly conceptual artist, and and even putting his livelihood, his health at risk in creating that art that he creates. But if what's the power of language? The ability to create that world.
It's like when you have. We were speaking about slang earlier, and we were talking about the orange vernacular of the orange, right? And so it becomes a working language. And you say what happens here in Rotterdam, you know, it becomes a hodgepodge of just all these different people and their experiences and language from where they're from. Then it becomes kind of a street tall or a street slang, right?
We're actually going to address that in the next podcast. The next video essay is about Dutch slang and Rotterdam slang and how that the hodgepodge and the creolisering,
but all of a sudden you have to realize also, don't ever let no one call this creolization or any of this patoying. These are African tongues speaking European language. I'm not bastardizing anything. You just don't understand it.
So
for me,
unequivocally against the idea of creolization?
No. I'm fully for it.
Or
using that idea. It's not going to be called
Okay.
creolization or patoying or this thing or that thing. No, this is an African tongue. And this comes from a brother. His last name is Latham. Latham. He's a Jamaican brother who has a kind of a background like, and we got to put this in there in the link, whatever.
Definitely.
He's a Jamaican background, and he moved to Panama like my grandmother did. And I found him through researching food as well as Jamaicans who moved to Panama and that kind of diasporic flavor of sorts. Yeah, where we're speaking of street tall, right? We're getting there. So when we get to the street tall, we have this thing. They have the slave lodge in Kaapstad. I'll call it out here, Cape Town. But then they had all these people from Madagascar, certain people from Yavance region, even some India, Eastern Cape or Eastern coast of Africa, the Cape region, and inland Namibia, and all this stuff. So you have all of these mixings of working language. You know, all of these mixings happening. And it creates a different street tall. You'll have so many different street talls no matter where you go. I think that's beautiful. But someone will be like, and the thing is, it has a short window because those social circumstances or the nuances that allow that language to exist will no
super
longer
precarious,
exist
right?
after two
Fragile.
generations.
Yeah,
They will no longer exist.
yeah,
In the case of like having a bunch of enslaved people from all over the world, it's probably a good thing. You know what I mean? That it didn't last, you know?
Exactly.
But then it has turned into Afrikaans, or it's turned into kind of like other ways of these slangizations, creolizations, bastardizations, patoisizations of shit.
Pigeoning.
Pigeoning.
And the interesting thing is that it's happening as we speak in Rotterdam and Amsterdam as well, to a lesser extent, in my belief. But I think now it's 30 or 40 years, and there's generations being added, because the whole notion of what it means to be a Rotterdammer has completely changed. It's what it means to be a Rotterdammer these days is, if you want to understand what that is, you have to take a look in neighborhoods such as Bospolder Tussendijken or Tarwewijk or the South, or let me not forget the people from the North, Rotterdam North. That's where you can find reach to an understanding what it means to be a Rotterdammer these days. And that whole patoising or the pigeoning is something that will continue on, even though the city is being gentrified, because it's going to take more time for the city to be gentrified, because Rotterdam is chocolate city. In terms of the Netherlands, it is chocolate.
It's one of the black cities of Europe.
Exactly. So can you imagine?
Isn't it the most diverse city in Europe?
It's one of the most diverse cities in Europe, and it was for a while one of the most diverse cities in the world. So the nuances and the context for that language, those types of street talk to emerge are quite stable, and that makes this city is like super interesting, as in to reflect on and understand and research what's going on as we speak.